Did you know that back in 2011, Terraria wasn't even supposed to exist yet? And yup, it's all because of 4chan. In May 2011, Terraria wasn't supposed to see the light of day yet. Andrew Redigit Spinks had only been working on his passion project for something like 4 months when, well, disaster struck. Someone managed to discover unprotected files sitting on the official Terraria website and downloaded a pre-alpha build of the game. And this leaked version, it spread like absolute wildfire through 4chan, forcing Relogic's hand in a way that nobody could have expected. The game that was supposed to cook in the oven for at least another year suddenly had to ship within just 11 days of the leak happening. What makes this whole story particularly fascinating is that the leaked version was barely even recognizable as Terraria. We're talking about only 30 items total. You couldn't even place wood blocks. There was literally no music whatsoever, and the character sprites were borrowed from old Final Fantasy games. But despite this absolute catastrophic leak forcing an early release, Terraria managed to sell over 200,000 copies in its first week on Steam, and nearly 500,000 within the first month. Which just goes to show that sometimes the best laid plans mean absolutely nothing when you've got a genuinely compelling game underneath all those missing features. Speaking of plans, there's one that basically says Terraria is a speedrun game dev project. When Terraria launched back in May 2011, the gaming community just assumed it had been in development for years, given its content depth and overall polish. But the truth? It's far more remarkable than that. Andrew Spinks started development in January 2011, which gave him roughly 4 months to create what would eventually become one of the most successful indie games of all time. The absolutely condensed timeline explains so much about the game's early quirks and limitations. Spinks was essentially speedrunning game development, implementing features at a breakneck pace while simultaneously building the entire engine from scratch using Microsoft XNA. And the leak forced his hand even further, meaning the game that actually shipped on May 16, 2011 was essentially just a snapshot of a work in progress that happened to be playable enough to sell. What's truly mind-blowing about all this is that version 1.0 included boss fights, crafting systems, different biomes, NPCs, and multiplayer functionality, all created within this impossibly short window of time. The version 1.1 update that followed ended up taking approximately 7 to 8 months more development time, which was almost double the time spent creating the entire foundation of the original game. Of course, when it comes to developers, they just can't help but put themselves inside the game. Hidden within Terraria's code is one of the most personal Easter eggs in gaming history. If your World's Guide NPC randomly generates the name Andrew, congratulations. You've encountered Redigit himself. When Andrew the guide dies, he drops the green cap, an item that can only be obtained this specific way, and references the signature hat that Terraria's creator, Andrew Redigit Spinks, wears in real life. This isn't just a cute reference though, it's a statistical nightmare for completionists. The guide's name is randomly selected from a pool of potential names every time a world is created, making the chances of getting Andrew incredibly slim. Players have reported creating hundreds of worlds just trying to trigger this Easter egg. What makes it even more special is that the green cap serves no functional purpose beyond vanity, making it purely a collector's item for those who appreciate the game's development history. Some dedicated players have spent literal days world hopping just to get this one piece of headwear. So if you also want to be as cool as a guy named Andrew, make sure to like and subscribe. Yet, there was one time when they removed a boss from the game because they realized they made a big oopsie. Ocram stands as one of the strangest pieces of content in Terraria's history. This hard mode boss was created exclusively for console and mobile versions as new content, designed to give those additions something unique that PC players didn't have yet. It was positioned as a bridge boss between the mechanical bosses and Plantera, complete with its own summon item and drops like Souls of Blight. However, despite looking official, Ocram never truly fit into Terraria's long-term design philosophy. When Relogic began pushing for full parity across all platforms with the 1.3 update, Ocram became a major problem. The goal was to ensure that Terraria was the same game everywhere, with identical progression, bosses, and balance. Ocram, along with several other console-exclusive enemies and items, was removed to make this possible. Relogic later explained that the boss wasn't engaging enough and didn't feel like a natural part of Terraria's progression, making it an easy cut during the unification process. As part of Ocram's removal, its existence was quietly erased from active versions of the game. Any Souls of Blight left in player inventories were automatically converted into 5 gold coins each. Ocram trophies and masks became unobtainable legacy items, replaced in progression by bosses like the Lunatic Cultist. From that point on, Ocram effectively became non-canon in modern Terraria. And if Souls of Blight were worth 5 gold coins, there's one item that's worth 5 platinum coins. So the companion cube cost 5 platinum coins, making it the most expensive item in all of Terraria. This adorable Portal reference pet follows you around until you discover it's actually terrifying. The first creepy secret is that if you drop it in lava, it screams using the exact same sound as a dying lunatic cultist. Leave it there long enough, and you might hear the Moon Lord's death sound instead. But here's where it gets really messed up. If you're standing in complete darkness with your companion cube, it will randomly stab you for 3 damage. Yeah, you read that right. Your pet will literally murder you, showing the death message was stabbed. It doesn't even need to touch you. It can stab through walls, so you can't predict when it's coming. This is a direct reference to GLaDOS's line in Portal. The weighted companion cube will never threaten to stab you. The tooltip even quotes this. Oh, and it also makes random fart noises using the whoopee cushion sound effect. So basically, you just spent 5 platinum on a homicidal pet that's completely useless in combat and might actually kill you if you forget to bring a torch. Is it worth it? Probably not. And what's even worse is that aside from a lunatic pet, there was a mechanic where floods could destroy your house. Here's a crazy story from Terraria's 8th anniversary Q&A in 2019. Developer Syrric revealed they once tested realistic water accumulation during rain, and it was an absolute disaster. When it rained, water would actually pile up on the ground and create floods that stuck around and spread everywhere. If your building wasn't completely sealed, it would flood from the inside, potentially drowning your NPCs and destroying everything you built. Sounds cool in theory, right? You'd have to design proper drainage and waterproof your base. But in reality, it was a total nightmare. The water physics completely tanked performance and corrupted save files. Your beautiful base would turn into a swimming pool, and there was basically no way to get rid of all that water once it spread. They scrapped it before launch, which was probably the right call. Syrric also mentioned they tried letting players dye their weapons, but technical issues killed that too. Those cut features are wild to think about, because we could have had an even more complex Terraria, though honestly, it might have been unplayable. Sometimes simpler is better. And this next one, though, completely ignores what I've just said. The World Seed 05162020, also known as the Drunk World, is honestly one of Terraria's wildest and most detailed Easter eggs. If you type in this seed, especially on May 16th, 2020, which is not only 9 years after Terraria first dropped, but also the day the Journey's End update went live, you unlock what the game's own code calls Drunk World Gen. This world does a ton of things you're not supposed to see together. Both corruption and crimson show up in the same world, which just doesn't happen under normal circumstances. You get both ore variants, like copper and tin, appearing side by side. The starting NPC isn't your usual guide, but it's the party girl. Even the dungeon gets moved. Its entrance pops up under a living tree with brown painted leaves. Plus, the snow and jungle biomes end up together on the same side of the map, instead of being separated. And while the world is generating, the status messages turn into random numbers that constantly change, except when it briefly says, placing traps. The world icon? It's a tree that has been infected by both evil biomes at once. The seed isn't just a fun little bonus though. The developers had to totally rewrite the world generation code to make a world that breaks all the usual rules. Players love using this seed because you can get materials that normally take several worlds to collect. It's super handy for completionists, even if navigating this place feels like pure chaos. And of course, if you haven't rage quit because of this, you're going to be surprised Redigit did. Back in February 2012, not even a year after Terraria's amazing launch, Andrew Spinks took to the official forums and announced that development was done. No more updates. The game was finished. The news hit the community hard, especially since Spinks had hinted at features that would now never make it into the game. His message was really abrupt and didn't give much of a reason for stopping work on a game that had already sold millions of copies. The real story came out later. Spinks was completely burned out from the frantic pace of development and the never-ending pressure to keep adding new stuff. For the sake of his mental health, he needed to step away. What's really interesting is that Terraria was supposed to wrap up with version 1.1. All the updates after that, they weren't even planned. The game was supposed to be done and dusted, but then something unexpected happened. People just kept buying the game. So in 2013, Spinks came back and released the big 1.2 update. After that, 1.3 was supposed to be the last. Then Journey's End was going to be the last. After that, Labor of Love was definitely announced as the last. You have to celebrate love, but did you know that you can also celebrate a seed? On May 16, 2021, exactly 10 years after Terraria's original release, Relogic surprised everyone with the unannounced 1.4.2.3 update. If you use the seed 05162011 or Celebration MK10, you'll discover what might be the most generous world Terraria has ever seen. You always spawn right on an ocean beach, where Andrew the Guide, Whitney the Steampunker, Uri the Princess, Amanda the Party Girl, and a town bunny are waiting, and the party never stops. The whole world is painted in bright rainbow colors, and every chest is packed with items that have the very best possible modifiers, especially legendary for weapons and menacing for accessories. You'll also find 2 special enemies, golden slimes and jungle mimics, in pre-hard mode and nowhere else. Rare items like the Rod of Discord and developer armor sets suddenly have much higher drop rates, and the traveling merchant always has 2 extra items for sale. The princess NPC sells exclusive goodies, like the slime staff and discount card that you normally can't get. Even the loading screen text turns pink. This seed is basically Relogic's way of saying, thanks for playing for 10 years, letting fans experience everything the game has to offer without all the grind. Moving on, Terraria Otherworld was announced back in 2015 as an exciting spin-off that would mix in tower defense mechanics, RPG elements, and a totally fresh visual style. It was going to keep the familiar 2D side-scrolling look, but feature more polished graphics and move away from the classic pixel art vibe. The story revolved around purifying a corrupted world using new systems, with cool new weapons like the gold-plated tomahawk and crimson axe to try out. Relogic first teamed up with Engine Software, then switched over to Pipeworks Studio in 2017 when development started to drag. About a year later, on April 13, 2018, Relogic officially announced that Otherworld was cancelled. They said the project just wasn't living up to their standards and wouldn't give players the experience they deserved. In reality, the game was stuck in development hell. with resources stretched too thin as Redigit worked on Terraria 1.3 updates at the same time. Rather than release something half-baked, they scrapped it and focused on the main game. Many of the creative ideas from Otherworld ended up shaping the Journey's End update, which became the true evolution of Terraria. In early February 2021, something bizarre happened. Google suspended all of Redigit's Google accounts out of nowhere, leaving Andrew Spinks locked out of Gmail, Google Drive, YouTube, and every other Google service. Frustrated, Spinks vented on Twitter, and Redigit immediately pulled the plug on their planned Stadia release of Terraria. The tweet was blunt and pretty savage. "I will not be involved with a corporation that values their customers and partners so little. Doing business with you is a liability." Considering Terraria is one of the most successful indie games ever, this sent shockwaves through the gaming community, which rallied around Redigit and pointed out Google's sketchy customer service. Later that month, Google reached out in private, explained what happened, though they never made it public, and restored the accounts. Amazingly, Redigit accepted the apology and development for Stadia resumed. Terraria launched on Stadia just 6 weeks after all the drama. The whole thing proved that Redigit stands by its principles and that Google actually listens when a situation blows up on social media. When Terraria first launched, the zapinator was the most overpowered weapon in the game. It was a rapid-fire laser that could destroy anything, instantly making it the top weapon. But Redigit quickly realized it was too much and pulled it from the game in update 1.0.1, swapping all zapinators in the world for angel statues. For years, the zapinator was just a memory in old save files. Then, with Journey's End in May 2020, the zapinator made a comeback, but as a hilarious joke weapon with totally random effects. Each shot could do anything: teleport enemies, heal them, change their color, bounce around wildly, phase through walls, or just disappear. Now it was a weapon for pure chaos, not for serious fighting. Redigit's philosophy became clear. Instead of erasing mistakes, they turned them into fun features. The zapinator even got 2 versions, orange and gray, each with its own unpredictable behavior. Anyone who still had the original zapinator in old saves found it had been converted to this new, wild version, so the overpowered classic is gone for good. The infamous pre-alpha build of Terraria that leaked before the game's official release was totally silent and had no music tracks at all, just sound effects. Players who tried it out found the world oddly empty without any tunes. It wasn't that the leak removed music. The truth is, there just wasn't any music in the game yet. Redigit was handling development solo back then, and hadn't gotten around to hiring a composer. That iconic Terraria theme, the catchy biome tracks, the boss battle music, none of it existed yet, making the early game feel even more incomplete. Surprisingly, even in this silent state, the game captured people's imaginations and spread online. Composer Scott Lloyd Shelley was brought in later, probably during the frantic rush between the leak and the official launch, to put together the entire soundtrack at lightning speed. Listening to Terraria's finished music now really shows how much it adds to the atmosphere, and the early silence would have made the game feel completely different. In July 2023, Andrew Redigit Spinks left Twitter to hang out on the Terraria forums, where he started dropping 1.4.5 spoilers and sharing fun development updates. But then, in a hilarious twist, his wife, Syrric, Whitney Spinks, who's also Redigit's VP, banned him from the forums for abuse of power. The ban notice was public. The community burst out laughing, and it was clear the whole thing was a playful joke between them. Redigit jokingly returned to Twitter to talk about being banned, and other community figures like Chippy joined in on the fun, even making a fake MySpace profile for Redigit. While he was banned, Syrric took over sharing spoilers herself. The whole event highlighted just how wholesome and lighthearted the Terraria community is. Even at the executive level, Redigit doesn't take itself too seriously. Fans even created Team Redigit, and The Cult of Scenics for fun. The ban was obviously temporary, but it created more excitement and laughs than a regular spoiler post ever could. That's Terraria at its best. The community finds fun in everything, even fake drama. The Nintendo 3DS version of Terraria is basically frozen in time. It is locked behind the 1.2.4 era and never received the massive 1.3 update, and it never will. Because of that, it has quietly become the only official way to experience content that was completely removed everywhere else. Bosses like Ocram, Lepus the Easter Bunny, and Turkor the Ungrateful still exist here, along with items like Souls of Blight that no longer appear on any other platform. This turns the 3DS version into a playable museum of Terraria history. You can fight these bosses, collect their drops, and experience mechanics that were intentionally erased from the game's future. Ironically, the 3DS version was once seen as the worst way to play Terraria because of its small world size, lower resolution, and limited multiplayer. Now those same limitations are what make it valuable. Physical copies of the game have gone up in price, with collectors and completionists paying extra just to access this lost content. Speedrunners have even created 3DS-only categories because the version is so different. If you want to delete Terraria content without mods, this forgotten port is the only legitimate option. As of version 1.4.5, Terraria has 8 secret world seeds, and each one feels more extreme than the last. These include Celebration MK10, 05162020, Not the Bees, For the Worthy, The Constant, No Traps, Don't Dig Up, and Get Fixed Boy. What makes them special is that they do far more than tweak world generation. Each seed changes the core rules of how the game works. Early Terraria had no special seeds at all. Worlds were completely random. Seeds only became accessible much later, and at first, they were experimental and hidden behind config file edits. Once the developers realized what they could do with them, secret seeds became a playground for wild ideas. The ultimate example is Get Fixed Boy, which combines every other secret seed into one absurd nightmare. You start underground. Biomes are merged. Enemies are everywhere, and the game is actively trying to kill you at all times. Making this work required rewriting systems that were never meant to stack together. Relogic has hinted that more secret seeds are coming, and players now data mine every update, hunting for clues. It has turned into a quiet arms race between the developers and the community. In September 2023, Unity announced the Unity Runtime Fee, a new policy that would charge developers per game installation once certain revenue thresholds were reached. The reaction across the industry was immediate panic. Developers threatened to abandon Unity entirely, fearing the policy could bankrupt studios overnight. Relogic did not even use Unity for Terraria, since the game runs on Microsoft XNA and the .NET framework. Still, they stepped in publicly to condemn the policy. They announced a $100,000 donation to open source engines like Godot and FNA, plus an ongoing monthly donation. This was not symbolic support. They were actively funding Unity's competitors. The announcement went viral and added serious pressure to Unity, especially as other developers followed Relogic's lead. Eventually, Unity walked back the most damaging parts of the runtime fee after the backlash became overwhelming. What makes this moment stand out is that Relogic had nothing to gain. They were not affected by the policy at all. Instead, they used their reputation and money to protect smaller developers who were at risk. It showed how much influence they carry in the industry when they take a stand. But in 2019, the Epic Games Store was aggressively buying exclusivity deals, pulling major PC games away from Steam with massive payouts. During this period, Scenics made a clear public statement that Relogic would never make any of their games Epic exclusives. She said they would never sell their souls for money. This was not an empty promise. Epic was offering deals large enough to fund entire studios for years. Many developers accepted because the financial security was impossible to ignore. Relogic looked at that same money and walked away on principle. The statement resonated strongly with PC players who felt frustrated by exclusivity deals, locking games behind launchers they did not want. Terraria's community praised Relogic for putting players first instead of chasing profit. Years later, they stuck to that promise. Terraria remains available on Steam, GOG, and other platforms without epic exclusivity. What makes this especially notable is that Relogic could afford to refuse. Terraria sold so well that they were financially secure. Most indie studios do not have that luxury. Still, they chose to draw a line and stand by it, and they backed up their words with action. Most of the time, ducks in Terraria sound exactly how you expect. They quack like ducks, but every so often something deeply unsettling happens. One of them lets out a quack that is clearly a real human voice saying the word quack. It is not distorted or synthesized. It sounds like an actual person. The game never explains this. There is no lore, no tooltip, and no hint that it is supposed to happen. If multiple ducks are nearby, the chances increase, which has led to genuine jump scares for some players. You are calmly playing a pixel fantasy game, and suddenly a human voice breaks the immersion. Data miners have confirmed the sound file exists and is intentionally included in the game's assets. It is labeled in a way that suggests it was added on purpose, but Relogic has never commented on it publicly. That silence has only made it more unsettling. Some believe it was a developer joke. Others think it was a test recording that somehow stayed in the final game. Whatever the truth is, the effect is the same. Once you hear it, you never forget it. The ducks know something we do not. Back in October 2013, Redigit got everyone excited by announcing Terraria 2. He described it as a game that would be quite different from the original, featuring infinite worlds, more biomes, and richer lore. Fans got hyped, but after that, things went silent. Instead, Relogic started working on Terraria Otherworld, but that project was eventually cancelled. In the meantime, the original Terraria kept receiving updates after update. Terraria 2 quietly slipped into development limbo and has basically stayed there for over a decade. Every now and then, Redigit or Syrric drops hints that a sequel is still on their radar. In May 2019, they talked about a successor during the game's 8th anniversary, and in 2022, they both updated their Twitter locations to joke about Terraria 2, and even Terraria 2.5. Other staff joined in with funny location names, causing a flurry of speculation among fans. Ted Murphy later clarified that this was all just playful banter. As of 2024, the official word is that Terraria 2 will start development after the next update, but that next update keeps growing. The original Terraria's ongoing popularity makes it hard to move on, so the sequel remains in a perpetual coming soon state. Most background objects in Terraria are just for looks. When you break them, nothing happens. One of the most common sights underground is swords stuck in stone, looking like something out of Arthurian legends. Players usually ignore them after a while, but every now and then one of these swords is actually a hidden shrine containing the enchanted sword, a cool weapon that auto-swings and shoots out magical beams. The game trains you to ignore these background swords, so when there's finally one with actual loot, most players walk right past it without even noticing. The real shrines can be spotted if you're paying attention. They shimmer slightly and use a different sprite, but it's easy to miss. New players often destroy every sword they find, while veterans breeze by and miss treasures they've been conditioned to ignore. Relogic could have made these shrines more obvious, but they deliberately hid rare loot behind subtle cues. This design forces you to question your assumptions and look more closely at the world. Some players go hundreds of hours without finding a single enchanted sword, while others stumble across several by luck. It's the perfect blend of frustration and reward. In Terraria, the Doctor's set is a shirt with a red bow tie and blue pants, a look most fans instantly recognize as a nod to Doctor Who's 11th Doctor, played by Matt Smith, except officially it's not. The outfit is generic enough that it could just be any stylish person in casual clothes. There's no TARDIS, no sonic screwdriver, and not a single official mention of Doctor Who in the game files. Relogic has never confirmed that it's a reference to Doctor Who. The whole community has just decided it's cosplay based on color and the iconic bow tie, but for all anyone knows, it could be referencing something else entirely, or just be a coincidence. This kind of ambiguity is actually clever. If the BBC ever objected, Relogic could honestly say it's just a regular outfit. The same goes for lots of other references in Terraria. The creeper costume might just be a green mask, and the companion cube is just a pink box. By never confirming or denying, Relogic keeps its nods to gaming culture legally safe and open to interpretation. It's a fun gray area that lets players see whatever they want to see. In Terraria's leaked pre-alpha build, there were some hidden debug tools left over from development. Players who poked around found settings like Dumb AI, which made all enemies just stand still, God mode for invincibility, and debug mode for camera controls, spawning yellow slimes, and rapid torch placement. These weren't intended for the public, but they were simply there for Redigit to test things more easily while making the game. By the time Terraria officially launched as version 1.0, all of these secret features had been completely removed. Redigit didn't turn them into cheat codes or console commands, choosing instead to make everyone play the game as he intended, without shortcuts. That means Terraria never got official cheat codes, debug menus, or in-game console commands. If you wanted to mess around or cheat, you'd have to use third-party tools or inventory editors. The pre-alpha leak is the only place where God mode was possible without mods, so some players kept copies just for that. Relogic's decision to remove these features instead of keeping them as Easter eggs shows a strong commitment to the intended gameplay experience. Before the 1.3.1 update, Terraria had a frame skip setting that most players didn't really understand. There were just two options: on, which was the default for XNA, and off, which was Terraria's own custom version. Most people just set it to off and played happily, until update 1.3.1 arrived and completely rewrote the frame skip system. Suddenly, players with high refresh rate monitors, like 120Hz or 144Hz, ran into all kinds of bugs and issues. The root of the problem was that Terraria's off setting wasn't really off. It was a totally different implementation that got weird above 60 FPS. Relogic had to rebuild the system from scrap, adding more frame skip options. This change threw off thousands of players, especially speedrunners and PvP fans who had built up muscle memory and timing around the old system. The community blew up with complaints, especially because the patch notes didn't really explain why the change was needed. It was only after lots of feedback that developers clarified the changes were meant to fix real bugs, not just to shake things up. The whole controversy highlighted how little most players understand about technical settings that can totally change how a game feels to play. When Journey's End arrived in May 2020, Terraria added the NPC happiness system. Suddenly, your villagers cared a lot about where they lived and who their neighbors were, and this started affecting shop prices. Players who used to cram every NPC into a single high-rise saw costs go up, and pylons wouldn't even sell unless an NPC was happy enough. This meant tons of players had to totally rethink their town layouts. People made charts and diagrams just to get everything optimized. The in-game explanations were pretty minimal, so if you wanted the best prices or fast travel, you almost had to keep the wiki open. Journey mode didn't let you just turn off happiness, but pylons still needed both a certain level of happiness and a small town to work. Later patches did make things a bit easier, lowering the requirements and making rules clearer. Since version 1.2, solar eclipses in Terraria have had their own intense theme music called Eclipse, but if you played long enough, you might have noticed the event sometimes runs with the normal day music instead. This usually happens after coming up from underground, or when multiple event triggers overlap. It feels like the soundtrack system just got confused and doesn't always switch over like it's supposed to. This isn't a single, well-documented bug that pops up every update, but it's more of a recurring quirk that gets reported in different versions. The music file is definitely in the game and plays perfectly if you force it, so the issue seems to be with how the game chooses and prioritizes background tracks in the middle of all the action. Over time, this little oddity turned into a meme within the Terraria community. Players will ask each other, "Did your Eclipse music actually play?" as a running joke. Even though it's just a minor detail, it shows how much players care about the atmosphere and polish of their favorite events. And even the background music is part of the adventure. For a long time in Terraria, lava was just a hazard to avoid, nothing more than a painful obstacle in the underworld. That changed with update 1.2.4, when the hotline fishing hook arrived. Suddenly, you could fish directly in lava once you hit hard mode, opening up a whole new world of weird, valuable catches that most players never even considered before. Then Terraria 1.4 took things even further. Now you could get lava-proof gear, like the lava-proof fishing hook and tackle bag, plus new crates like obsidian and hellstone, turning lava lakes into gold mines for those willing to gear up. Builders started setting up lava piers, and loot planners began plotting specific fishing goals. Some players still ignore the whole system due to the RNG and gear costs, but others swear by the rewards. Moonlord is Terraria's ultimate boss, and if you dig into the game's official lore, you'll find a lot of hints that he's actually Cthulhu, or at least what's left of him, trying to regenerate. Earlier bosses look suspiciously like individual body parts or organs ripped from something much bigger. The game never outright explains this, though. Instead, you piece it together from item names, boss sprites, and a few cryptic lore blurbs. The clues start early. After defeating the Wall of Flesh, the world simply says, "The ancient spirits of light and dark have been released." There's no cutscene or exposition, just a vague hint that you've broken a seal and let bigger horrors into the world. This hands-off style means a lot of players can finish Terraria without ever noticing the story, while lore nerds have a blast piecing together the cosmic horror. Terraria's Minecart system got a big upgrade in the 1.3 era. There were track switches, boosters, and even the mechanical cart, which eventually became part of the Minecart upgrade kit that buffs all your carts permanently. The system supports full-blown racetracks and fancy engineering projects. In theory, players could use all these features to make complex minigames and high-speed tracks. But in practice, most people stopped using minecarts once they unlocked faster movement. Wings, mounts, and teleporters all outclassed rails. For the record, Bone Lee doesn't drop a cart. You craft the mechanical cart from pieces dropped by the mechanical bosses. With 1.4.4, carts were standardized, and their special abilities rolled into the upgrade kit. It's all impressively engineered, but for most players, those speedy toys in the endgame are just too good to pass up. The Steampunker is one of Terraria's most unique NPCs, known for selling the Contaminator, a tool that lets you change biomes by spraying special solutions. Most players see her as just the biome conversion merchant, but there's more to her story. In the special celebration seed, she spawns on the beach with Andrew the guide and Yuri the princess, but her real name is Whitney. That's a direct nod to Syrric, or Whitney Spinks, Terraria's co-lead developer and art director. Syrric actually designed the Steampunker's whole look and role herself. The purple highlights, Victorian steampunk outfit, and workshop vibe all reflect her personal style and direction. Even the steampunk outfit set you can buy from the Steampunker is her signature touch. But you wouldn't know any of this just by playing the game. There's no in-game credit. You need to know the behind-the-scenes details to catch it. The Steampunker stands as Syrric's subtle autograph, proof she helped shape Terraria's look and features, not just as Redigit's wife, but as a creative force with major impact on the game's systems and style. Golem is supposed to be the big boss after Plantera, deep inside the jungle temple. In reality, he's way easier than the bosses you fought much earlier. Nearly every Terraria player agrees. Golem just isn't tough enough for his spot in the progression. What's interesting is that Redigit is well aware of this. They've rebalanced many bosses over time, but left Golem's stats mostly alone. That's because his main job isn't to be a challenge, he's there as a checkpoint. Beating Golem unlocks the cultists in the dungeon, and lets you access all the endgame content, including the Moon Lord. He's a loot gate, making sure you have Solar Eclipse tier gear and the right upgrades before moving forward. If Golem were tougher, it might mess up the progression curve. The Enchanted Nightcrawler is one of the best pre-hard mode fishing baits in Terraria. To craft it, all you need is a regular worm and a fallen star. That's it. Combine the two, and you get a magically charged worm. If you're wondering why that makes sense, well, it doesn't. There's no lore, no NPC explanation, and not even a joke about why a star and a worm turn into glowing superbait. The recipe just exists, and players accept it because it works. Terraria is full of weird, illogical crafting recipes like this. You use glowing mushrooms and chlorophyte bars to make shroomite. Unlike some games that invent lore or in-universe science for crafting, Terraria just shrugs and says, don't worry, it's a game. The nurse in Terraria is famous for being able to heal you instantly and clear debuffs for a price that rises the further you get in the game. Early on, a quick heal cost pocket change, but by the time you've beaten the mechanical bosses or switched to expert mode, the price jumps to gold coins and up. This creates some interesting strategies for speedrunners and advanced players, especially in boss fights. In battles like Moon Lord, pros use the nurse like a secret weapon, teleporting home to heal, then zipping back to the fight fully restored. The price is high, but for guaranteed survival, many players see it as a fair trade. There's some debate over whether this cheeses the challenge, letting players dodge boss difficulty by spending coins. Redigit has never nerfed this, likely because pulling it off takes setup. You need the nurse nearby, a teleport system, and your whole arena planned around quick escapes. Casual players rarely optimize this way, so it mostly affects top-level play. Some speedrun categories even ban the nurse to keep things fair, while others embrace the resource management angle. Whether you call it a legitimate tactic or a cheesy exploit, the nurse definitely changes the dynamic of late-game boss battles. The Endless Musket Pouch sounds awesome. Combine 3,996 musket balls, and you get infinite basic ammo for your guns. There's just one catch. By the time you've gathered nearly 4,000 musket balls, you're probably not using basic bullets anymore. At that point in the game, you've upgraded to crystal bullets, chlorophyte bullets, or even luminite bullets, which pack way more punch. So the pouch ends up being a reward for players who no longer really need it. The same issue affects the endless quiver for arrows. Both items are popular with completionists, and those doing special basic ammo-only runs. But for basic players, they're kind of backwards. Some people argue that endless ammo is overpowered and should be tough to get. Others think it'd be more fun if the recipe only required, say, 1,000 musket balls, making it accessible when it would be most useful. Redigit's approach seems to be, these are trophies for players who have mastered the game and want some convenience, not must-have tools for progression. If you want to summon Golem, you need a Lazard power cell. These drop from Lazard enemies in the Jungle Temple at a 2% rate, so you'll average one cell every 50 enemies. That sounds okay, but the temple is limited. Enemies don't respawn quickly, and getting enough cells to fight Golem over and over takes serious effort. Before patch 1.2.4, the drop rate was only 0.5%, or 1 in 200, which was even worse. The community complained, and Redigit boosted the odds, but farming still feels tedious. There's another twist. You can only mine Lazard bricks to make a mob farm after beating Golem and getting the picksaw, which means you need to beat Golem a few times the hard way first. By the time you can easily farm power cells, you probably don't need Golem's loot anymore. In multiplayer, the grind is even more obvious, since only the player who uses the cell gets kill credit, while everyone can grab loot bags, making it easy to run out of cells. The drop rate is clearly designed to slow down endless golem farming. It acts as a progression wall, just nudging casual players forward, while giving completionists a real grind. The Angler is Terraria's resident fishing expert, and he'll give you a new quest every in-game day, about every 24 minutes in multiplayer. To earn all his rewards, you need to complete 200 quests. For most people, that means either playing every day for months or finding ways to speed up the process in single player by manipulating time. Relogic clearly designed this as a super long-term goal for dedicated players. But the community isn't a fan. The Angler is notorious for handing out rewards randomly, which means you might go 100 quests without getting the fishing accessory you actually want. The Supreme Helper Minion achievement, complete 200 quests, has one of the lowest completion rates on Steam. Speedrunners don't even bother with Angler content because it's so time-gated. Fishing enthusiasts and completionists are the only ones who usually tough it out. The most frustrating part is that most of the useful rewards, like cell phone components, are tied to early quests, while the big milestone rewards at 200 quests are just vanity items. Relogic could have made it easier or guaranteed key rewards, but chose not to. With the Journey's End update, Meteorite mechanics changed in a big way. Now, meteorites don't fall just from breaking shadow orbs or crimson hearts. You have to actually defeat the Eater of Worlds or Brain of Cthulhu first. Your first win guarantees a meteorite lands the next midnight, and later kills have a 50% chance to trigger more, plus a slim random chance every night. Clever players quickly figured out that you can manipulate where meteorites fall by covering up parts of the world with player-placed blocks. You block those areas from meteorite spawns, funneling meteorites into your chosen spots. This is a game changer for both farming and protecting builds. Speedrunners and advanced players pre-plan their world layouts, so meteorites always land in easy-to-mine safe places, saving time and avoiding headaches. Relogic knows about this technique and hasn't patched it, hinting that it's a cool bit of emergent gameplay rather than a problem. What's wild is how many players never learn this trick, even after dozens of worlds ruined by unexpected meteorites. Terraria never spells out these mechanics, so it becomes one of those hidden depth moments where game knowledge really pays off and completely changes your experience. The bunny mount, summoned with a fuzzy carrot, looks like a silly early game reward. It's really just like a cute hopping ride. But dig a little deeper and it's got a secret. When you're riding the bunny mount, you take 0 fall damage, no matter how far you drop. That's a rare ability, especially in pre-hard mode. Suddenly, this joke mount is a lifesaver when you're dropping down elevators, exploring deep shafts, or need to get down from floating islands in a hurry. The trade-off is that the bunny mount is pretty slow horizontally, so it's not ideal for crossing the world. But its vertical jump is impressive, letting you scale cliffs or walls without ropes or grapples. Speedrunners use the bunny mount in very specific situations, exploiting its fall immunity and high jumps to save time on tricky platforming. While other mounts have gotten buffs over the years, the bunny mount's unique blend of vertical mobility and fall safety has stayed the same, suggesting Relogic likes its niche use. Players who ignore it because it looks goofy miss out on a handy trick. The space gun is a classic early game magic weapon. It fires rapidly and does decent damage, but drains mana fast. Here's the catch. If you equip the full meteor armor set, the space gun's mana cost drops to 0, meaning you can fire endlessly. This combo is simple, but incredibly powerful for its progression tier. With space gun and meteor armor, you can breeze through pre-hard mode bosses and even take on the Wall of Flesh much earlier and more easily than you'd expect. The game never advertises the synergy, so unless you read item tooltips closely or hear about it from other players, you might miss it entirely. Casual players often get meteor armor and the space gun at different times, not realizing how game-changing the combo is. Meanwhile, speedrunners and experienced players use it as their go-to strategy for early boss fights. This just means they skip the need for stronger, but slower to obtain weapons. Relogic hasn't nerfed this combo, likely viewing it as a reward for players who explore and experiment with gear. In hard mode, breaking demon altars is essential for spawning the new ores underground. What most players miss on their first playthrough, every time you smash a demon altar, 1 to 2 wraiths spawn instantly, right next to you, no matter what time it is. Not every few altars, not randomly, but every single one. There's no warning, no sound cue, just a sudden attack from high damage ghosts. This has led to countless deaths for players who weren't prepared, especially if they were smashing altars in tight or unsafe places. The mechanic exists to keep altar breaking risky and to encourage preparation, and smart players will clear and buff an area before starting. If you break altars quickly, the wraiths can stack up and overwhelm you. Interestingly, wraiths can drop useful items like souls and the fast clock, turning the punishment into an opportunity for resource farming if you're ready for it. Relogic added this specifically to make sure generating ore had real risk. Journey mode in Terraria is a game changer. Once you research an item, you can duplicate it as many times as you want. Basically infinite items for anything you've found. This sparked a huge debate in the community over whether playing in Journey mode counts as real Terraria. Some players say it's an official mode and a fair game. Others argue it's just creative mode with another name, and shouldn't count for achievements or serious runs. Speedrunners and challenge players almost always ban Journey mode, while casual builders and explorers embrace it. The real split comes down to what you think Terraria is all about. Is it surviving and managing resources, or just enjoying all the content at your own pace? Journey mode takes away the grind and lets you focus on building or experimenting, but for some, that removes what makes the game fun and challenging. Relogic's take is refreshingly diplomatic, and they say play however you like. Still, the debate rages on. YouTubers label non-journey in videos, and new players get wildly different advice on where to start. In the end, Journey mode's existence revealed just how much Terraria fans value the struggle as much as the adventure. The lava charm is a rare underground find that grants 7 seconds of lava immunity, enough time to escape or mine a bit in the underworld. But here's the kicker. Obsidian skin potions are cheap, craftable, and give you 6 minutes of complete lava immunity, making the lava charm's effect seem almost pointless. Many players hunt for hours to get the lava charm, only to realize a potion they can easily brew works better in nearly every situation. So why does the lava charm even exist? Its main purpose isn't to be used by itself, but it's a crafting component. Combine it with other items to make molten charms or lava waders, which eventually give you unlimited lava immunity when standing on lava, plus water walking. The lava charm's real value is in the crafting tree, not its solo use. New players often get excited about the charm, then disappointed by its redundancy. Relogic kept the effect modest on purpose, prioritizing crafting upgrades over standalone usefulness. It's not the best feeling to find a rare item, only to have it instantly outclassed by a potion, but in Terraria, crafting progression often wins out over immediate gratification. Angler quest fish have a sneaky mechanic that trips up a lot of players. You can't catch a second quest fish if you already have one in your inventory. This means you can't just stockpile a bunch of quest fish for future angler quests. To collect multiples, you have to catch one, stash it in a chest or piggy bank, then go back to fishing for another. If you try to catch another while one's already in your inventory, the game simply refuses to give you a second. This isn't mentioned anywhere in-game, so a lot of people assume it's just bad luck or a glitch. Others never realize that by managing storage, you could collect several in advance with some effort. Relogic implemented this mechanic to stop players from trivializing the Angler's Quest system. They could have added a sparkle or hint, but left it hidden, staying true to Terraria's philosophy of letting players discover mechanics through trial and error or community sharing. Some say it's frustrating UX design, while others think it rewards those who pay close attention and plan ahead. Either way, it turns fishing quests into a lesson in inventory management and a bit of mystery. The slime staff holds a legendary status in Terraria, not because it's powerful, but because it's so ridiculously rare, with only a 0.01% chance, which is 1 in 10,000, of dropping from most slimes. Some players kill tens of thousands of slimes without ever seeing it, while a lucky few find one on their third or fourth kill. The staff summons a tiny baby slime minion with pretty unimpressive damage, so it's mostly just a trophy for completionists. Relogic knows how absurd this is. In the Celebration MK10 seed, the Princess NPC will sell you a slime staff for 25 gold, as a nod to how painful the drop normally is. Instead of making it more useful or increasing the drop rate, they left it as a running joke. The community embraced the grind, and streamers do marathon slime killing sessions, and getting slime staff has become a badge of honor. Battle potions, water candles, and elaborate slime farms are all used in the hunt, but some just cave and buy it on special seeds. The real punchline? The staff's near uselessness makes the grind even more ridiculous. You're chasing after one of Terraria's rarest items just for bragging rights, and players love it. Terraspark boots are the holy grail of Terraria footwear, combining a huge list of features into one accessory. But crafting them is an epic quest of its own. You'll need Frostbark boots, which require ice skates, lightning boots, and multiple hard-to-find materials, and lava waders, which themselves need the rare lava charm, molten charm, and more. To get these pieces, you'll need to hunt for around 6 different rare items from chests that sometimes don't even spawn in your world. Multiplayer helps, since friends can world hop for missing components. But solo players often have to generate new worlds just to find that elusive aglet or lava charm. The process is time-consuming, especially considering that the Terraspark boots only offer a small improvement over other high-tier boots like Frostbark or Amphibian boots. Relogic designed these boots as a true completionist trophy, not a mandatory progression item. Newer players see best boots in the game and grind for them early, not realizing they could get by just fine with simpler options. The lesson? Sometimes good enough is better for your sanity. Terraspark boots are a badge of perseverance and proof that you conquered Terraria's most infamous crafting tree. The guide Voodoo Doll is infamous for its ability to cause chaos, especially in multiplayer. You get it by killing voodoo demons in the underworld while the guide NPC is alive. Drop it in lava, and you instantly kill the guide and summon the Wall of Flesh, launching your world into hard mode. The catch? In multiplayer, anyone can accidentally or intentionally trigger this just by fighting in the underworld. If a voodoo demon dies near lava, the doll might fall in and start hard mode before anyone's ready. This has led to countless ruined worlds, accidental hard mode triggers, and server rules like no underworld farming to prevent griefing. The doll is unique among boss summoning items. It doesn't require an explicit action, just a bit of bad luck or mischief. New players sometimes stumble into hard mode completely unprepared, all because they didn't realize the danger of voodoo demon farming. On the flip side, speedrunners and advanced players use the doll for quick boss summons and hard mode rush strategies. As an accessory, you can even attack the guide directly, though it doesn't summon anything. The guide Voodoo Doll is a prank, a progression skip, and a disaster waiting to happen, all rolled into one. The Summoner class is famous for being a powerhouse in hard mode, but it's notoriously weak before then. While Relogic keeps adding new pre-hard mode summon weapons like the Finch Staff, Abigail's Flower, and Vampire Frog Staff, there's still a big gap. Summoner armor and accessories are nearly non-existent before hard mode. This leaves pre-hard mode summoners feeling underpowered and unfinished compared to other classes. Most guides recommend waiting until hard mode to play pure summoner, since you'll get better weapons and finally have gear that boost minion damage and capacity. Early bosses are a struggle for anyone stubborn enough to stick with the summoner from the start. Relogic's fix so far has been just to add more weapons, not to fill out the class's support gear. This means pre-hard mode summoner runs are a challenge mode by default, while hard mode turns you into a minion-wielding boss killer. Some players like the steep curve, enjoying the feeling of triumph when they finally hit their stride. Others wish the summoner felt like a real class right from the beginning. For now, playing summoner early is more about proving yourself than practical power, a quirky challenge that divides the community. The introduction of pylons in Terraria 1.4 was a game changer for getting around your world, but it quickly split the community. Pylons let you teleport between biomes, making fast travel super convenient, but unlocking them means you have to play by the NPC happiness rule and have at least 2 NPCs nearby. For players who love building themed villages and designing unique homes in every biome, this system was a dream come true. It gave real purpose to village layouts and rewarded creativity with smooth teleportation. But not everyone was happy. For players who just want to build one mega base or dislike micromanaging NPC preferences, pylons felt like annoying busywork that put a speed bump in the middle of progression. Even in journey mode, you can't just skip happiness for pylons. You still have to set up at least a few villages. Multiplayer adds another twist. Sometimes one player becomes the pylon admin, setting up and maintaining fast travel for the whole server, which can be a lot to handle. When Terraria added sloped tiles in 2013's update 1.2, players quickly found a strange bug. If your character's sprite overlapped a sloped block just right, the game's physics would shove you several tiles in a set direction every tick, basically launching you at lightning speed. Zero Gravitas, a dedicated community member, didn't just report this bug, but he documented it in depth and started building wild Hoik machines, using zigzag slopes to shoot players, mobs, or items through the world way faster than any legit transportation. Instead of patching it out, Redigit watched players build all sorts of amazing contraptions, from speedy railways to intricate mob farms, all powered by this bug. By Terraria 1.3, Hoiks were declared an official feature rather than a glitch. Zero Gravitas' research became part of the game's documentation, turning his bug hunting into a feature guide. Now, Hoiks are an expected part of high-level play, and Redigit even designs content assuming advanced players will use them. It's a rare case where a developer looked at a community exploit and said, "That's actually better than what we planned. Let's keep it." Terraria's original character sprites from the 1.0 release looked strikingly similar to those in Final Fantasy V. The artist, TIY, borrowed heavily from the 16 by 24 pixel SNES style, right down to the poses, animations, and proportions. Fans and players picked up on this right away, flooding forums with side-by-side comparisons and speculations. The resemblance wasn't just a nod, it was nearly identical in places. Redigit responded quickly, hiring new artists and overhauling every player's sprite, armor set, and animation. If you played Terraria at launch, you probably remember the sudden shift in art style. One update made everyone look brand new, and the Final Fantasy vibe was gone overnight. The official explanation was mostly silence. Redigit has never given full details, but TIY left the team soon after. For early adopters, it was a clear lesson about the risks of leaning too hard on inspiration from other games, especially when it comes to iconic art. Today, Terraria sprites are totally original, but the old controversy is rarely discussed. For years after the Moon Lord's debut, players joked about his missing legs, and during the fight, you only ever saw his massive upper body. Redigit, Terraria's lead dev, was asked about it and famously replied that if the community could come up with 10,000 signatures and $15, he'd add Moon Lord's lower half as a boss. Most people took this as pure sarcasm and a running joke. Then, when Terraria's 1.4 Drunk World seed dropped in 2020, players exploring the chaotic new world found a hilarious surprise: the Moon Lord Legs item, a piece of furniture showing the complete lower half of Terraria's biggest boss. The description and the design make it clear. This was Relogic's way of fulfilling the old joke, not as a real boss, but as a vanity item you could display in your base. Fans who remembered the original forum post went wild. The gag had gone full circle, with Redigit delivering the promised legs in the most tongue-in-cheek way possible. It's one of Terraria's longest-running meta jokes. The Moon Lord's tongue attack in Terraria Expert or Master mode spawns Moon Leech clots that rush to his mouth, healing him for 1000 HP each if they make it. In single player, this is manageable. You just kill clots as they appear, or occasionally accept a bit of healing. In multiplayer though, things get complicated. The boss targets the closest player for the tongue attack, and only one person is latched at a time. If that player can't kill the clots, maybe they're dodging attacks or their build is weak, Moon Lord gets healed. With more players, it's easier for this mechanic to break down. Sometimes the latched player is out of position, or teammates are busy fighting other threats. The tongue attack keeps rotating between players, increasing the odds that clots slip through. If this happens multiple times, Moon Lord can regain thousands of HP, erasing your team's progress. Many groups struggle with this, and don't realize what's causing the boss's health to climb mid-fight. The mechanic demands team coordination. Whoever is latched must kill clots or call for backup. This twist makes multiplayer much tougher, not because of extra attacks, but because one person's mistake can set the whole group back. It's definitely an intentional difficulty scaling mechanic. In the Celebration MK10 seed, released for Terraria's 10th anniversary, 4 special NPCs always spawn at the starting beach: Andrew the Guide, Whitney the Steampunker, Uri the Princess, and Amanda the Party Girl. While these names might seem random to casual players, they're actually the real names of Relogic's core team and family. Andrew is Andrew Redigit Spinks, the game's creator. Whitney is Whitney Scenics Spinks, Redigit's wife and VP. Uri represents Urizor, one of Terraria's key developers. And Amanda is Amanda Safeman Powell, the community manager. This spawn setup quietly creates a meet the developers moment for anyone starting a new world in this seed. The princess NPC, always named Uri here, specifically honors Urizor, just as Andrew the Guide's green cap nods to Redigit. It's a subtle tribute that most players overlook, thinking it's just a quirky RNG, but for those in the know, it's like a hidden developer credit screen woven into the world. Rather than breaking immersion with an explicit thank you or credits scene, Relogic immortalized the team by making their signatures part of the player's very first moments in this special world. The princess in Terraria is clearly meant to be a child, since she's got a short sprite, youthful dialogue, and her story positions her as underage. This created a unique challenge. If the game showed her dying violently, Terraria would get an adults-only ESRB rating, locking it out of most platforms. To solve this, Relogic gave her a unique death animation. Instead of the usual bloody crumple and "name was slain" message, she vanishes in a puff of smoke with the message, "name has left." Game-wise, this still counts as a death. She drops loot, her house empties, and she has to respawn. But visually and textually, there's never any implication that she died. The Angler, another child NPC, gets the same treatment. It's not just flavor, but it's deliberate compliance with ratings requirements, allowing kids to exist as NPCs without risking censorship or bans. Players may just see it as a cute touch, but it's actually a clever legal move. By avoiding on-screen child death, Terraria keeps its teen rating and platform access, showing how developers creatively work around content regulations to keep their games accessible. One of the princess's lines, "Like my dress? Gee, thanks, just sewed it," seems like harmless chatter about crafting, but it's actually a direct nod to Ariana Grande's 2019 song, 7 Rings. which features the line, "You like my hair? Gee, thanks, just bought it." The dialogue swaps dress for hair and sewed for bot, but the rhythm and style are exactly the same. This is a rare case of Terraria referencing modern pop culture. Most of its jokes and Easter eggs lean into classic games, movies, or memes. The princess herself is a medieval fantasy character, which makes her quoting a pop hit from 2019 all the more hilarious and out of place, if you notice it. Most players won't think twice about the line, but it works perfectly well as innocent NPC banter. Only fans of Ariana Grande, or people who know Seven Rings, will catch the subtle homage. Redigit didn't make the reference any more obvious or go for a full pop culture theme, just left this one little joke in the dialogue for sharp-eyed players to discover. It's probably Terraria's most random real-world reference, quietly hidden in a sea of fantasy talk. The princess in Terraria has a happiness dialogue line players can never see during normal play. Name of princess is a little unsettling to be around, but terribly cute. This is the princess commenting on herself, which would require two princess NPCs standing near each other. That's impossible, since only one princess can exist in your world at a time. The line is fully written and coded in, but it's locked away unless you use mods or cheats to spawn two princesses side by side. Why is it there? Maybe it was a developer oversight, or maybe it's a sneaky Easter egg for data miners to find. It's too polished to be a total accident. With perfect princess personality and formatting, the idea that the princess finds herself unsettling is darkly funny, especially since she's this seemingly innocent final town member with a faintly mysterious vibe. Most players will never even know the line exists unless they browse wikis or dig into the game's files. Like hidden debug dialogue, it's part of Terraria's quirky charm and content you'll probably never see, but which adds a weird, delightful layer to the game's personality for those who do find it. Finn TIY Bryce was Terraria's main sprite artist in the early days, up until January 2012. After the Final Fantasy sprite controversy forced a complete art overhaul, TIY left Redigit and quickly founded Chucklefish Games, kicking off development on Starbound, a game that's visually and mechanically similar to Terraria. This was a little awkward for the indie gaming scene. TIY's work on Terraria was mostly sprite art that ended up replaced, while Starbound was clearly a spiritual sibling to Terraria's gameplay. Early Starbound announcements leaned into TIY's Terraria past, though how much this was used in marketing is up for debate. It's a tricky question. TIY did help build Terraria, so technically it's true, but his actual influence on Terraria's design was limited compared to Redigit, who created and coded the game. The two communities ended up with a weird rivalry, with some players seeing Starbound as a competing game, and others happy to enjoy both. Over time, Starbound developed its own reputation, independent of Terraria, while TIY shifted focus away from development. The situation is a lesson in how credits, roles, and marketing can get messy in indie game projects, and sometimes what gets left unsaid is just as important as the work itself. The Empress of Light is the only Terraria boss that radically changes based on the time of day. Fight her at night, and she's just a very tough, hard mode boss. Summon her during the day though, and suddenly every attack she uses deals tens of thousands of damage, one-shotting even the most armored players. This isn't a subtle buff, but it's a hard switch from hard to nearly impossible. The only way to win is to never get hit, not even once, all through multiple phases. Why take on this brutal challenge? The reward is the Terra Prisma, Terraria's best summoner weapon. There's no in-game warning, no NPC hint. Players discovered this by accident, usually by summoning her at dawn and getting instantly obliterated. Eventually, the community figured out it's an intentional challenge mode for expert players, with the ultimate loot locked behind perfect dodging. Guides, speedrunner videos, and special builds have popped up around daytime Empress hitless runs. The Terra Prisma is now a badge of honor, where either you're skilled enough to get it, or you found a cheesy workaround. Redigit left this mechanic mysterious on purpose, rewarding those who experiment, research, and communicate. It's a brutal but brilliant test for players who want to push their limits. During Blood Moons, almost all female NPCs in Terraria get dialogue that's more irritable or sarcastic than usual. The Dryad gets passive-aggressive, the nurse snaps at you, and the mechanic is snippy. This isn't random. It's a reference to premenstrual syndrome, or PMS, playing off the Blood Moon event as a menstruation joke. Some players find it funny or fitting, others see it as outdated and sexist, reducing the women in Terraria to a moody stereotype tied to biology. Critics have pointed out that only female NPCs are affected, and the event's name makes the period reference pretty hard to miss. Redigit has never commented, changed, or removed the dialogue, keeping it intact through every major update. Interestingly, the party girl and princess are not affected. The party girl is already chaotic, so mood swings would be redundant, and the princess is coded as a child, so the joke wouldn't apply. The mechanic is very much a product of the 2011 game humor. It's edgy, but not quite offensive enough for big backlash. These days, guides tend to gloss over it or phrase it clinically, but for many players, it's an awkwardly persistent relic of Terraria's earlier days. The Zenith is Terraria's ultimate sword, and its recipe is infamous. To craft it, you need 10 different swords. The Terrablade already has a major multi-step craft: Meow, Star Wrath, Influx Waver, Seedler, Star Fury, Beekeeper, Enchanted Sword, Horseman's Blade, and here's the kicker: a copper or tin short sword. Most of these are rare or late-game drops: Meow and Star Wrath from the Moon Lord, Influx Waver from Martian Saucers, Seedler from Plantera, and so on. Then, at the end of all that grinding, you need the worst weapon in the game, the little copper short sword you started with, which almost every player throws away in their first hour. The result is that lots of experienced players end up scouring multiplayer servers or starting new worlds just to get another copper sword for their Zenith. It's both a hilarious troll and a weird accessibility issue. The best sword in the game needs both the rarest loot and the most basic trash, forcing you to explore every corner of Terraria's content and maybe use the wiki. The Zenith's recipe is a monument to completionism and the game's sense of humor, but it's also a subtle nod that you'd better not throw anything away. The tax collector is easily one of Terraria's weirdest NPCs, and getting him is a little unsettling. He doesn't start as a person, but you'll find him as a tortured soul, a rare, ghostly figure wandering the underworld, wrapped in chains. If you throw purification powder on him, he transforms instantly into the tax collector. The game never explains what the tortured soul really is, how he ended up there, or why magic powder turns him into a tax man. Fans speculate he's a nod to Jacob Marley from A Christmas Carol, but Terraria keeps the lore vague. What's especially dark is that you're basically rescuing a suffering ghost from hell, and as soon as he's free, he immediately starts collecting money from your other NPCs. His dialogue is always grim or cynical, joking about how everyone hates tax collectors, and referencing suffering or death. It's never clear if that's trauma from his time as a ghost, or just his personality. Shimmer, introduced in Terraria 1.4.4, is a magical liquid that lets you transform items, get new buffs, and even change NPC appearances. But here's the catch: it only spawns deep underground, in a single Aether cave per world, and nothing in-game tells you where or when to find it. Most players stumble on Shimmer by accident, and usually not until late hard mode or even after beating Moonlord, long after it could have helped with crafting or upgrades. There's no hint from NPCs, and nothing in the game's progression points you toward it. That means some players use Shimmer throughout the entire playthrough, while others discover it and think, wow, this could have been great 50 hours ago. The mechanical cart is technically the fastest mount in Terraria, zooming along rails at 102 miles per hour, more than twice as fast as most wings. On paper, it's perfect for boss fights or speedruns. You can build a minecart track arena, hop in the cart, and literally outrun bosses like the Moon Lord. But here's the paradox. Setting up the tracks, bumpers, and arena takes so much time and effort that for a single boss fight or quick run, it's not worth it. The cart shines if you plan on farming bosses repeatedly, or are doing a challenge run focused on minecarts. Otherwise, the initial investment is just too high. Speedrunners usually stick to wings, mounts, or teleporters, since you can get point-to-point movement instantly without building anything. Some players have done minecart-only runs just for the novelty, but for most, the rail system is a fun side project rather than a core tool. Relogic probably imagined players building epic rail networks and using the cart all the time, but the game's many other fast movement options make it mostly a cool extra. Deerclops is Terraria's first major crossover boss, brought over from Don't Starve in the 1.4.3 update. To get it right, Relogic actually teamed up with Clay Entertainment, and you can really feel it. Deerclops acts nothing like a typical Terraria boss. In Don't Starve, Deerclops is a winter terror that destroys player structures, but Terraria's version skips the base wrecking and instead adapts its movement and attack style. The big twist is that Deerclops doesn't fly or phase through blocks like other Terraria bosses, but it's stuck to the ground, just like in Don't Starve. This changes the whole fight. If you build a platform arena high enough, you can dodge most attacks by staying above the boss, rewarding clever arena setup over frantic dodging. Every move and debuff is a direct callback to its original game. Ground pounds, flying debris, chilling roars, and shadow hands in expert mode. Even the boss music is composed by Clay, making the whole experience feel straight out of Don't Starve. You summon Deerclops in a blizzard at midnight, just as you would in Don't Starve's winter. The result? A fun, foreign boss fight that feels unique in Terraria, and a perfect love letter to Don't Starve fans. The Goblin Tinkerer is the NPC you love to hate. He'll reforge your gear for a price, randomly re-rolling modifiers, but his system is pure casino. The price to reforge scales up with your item's value and rarity, and there's zero guarantee you'll get what you want. There's no pity system and steady progress, just luck. It's not rare for players to blow through mountains of gold or platinum coins chasing that elusive, legendary, or menacing roll. And some even joke that the Goblin is Terraria's true final boss, because of how fast he drains your wallet. Over time, the community has figured out only reforge what you really need, settle for good enough, and make sure you've stocked up on cash before starting. Some have even mapped out optimal reforge strategies. Still, it's a ruthless money sink designed to keep players from getting infinitely rich. Relogic could have made the system more forgiving, but kept it fully random on purpose. The Goblin Tinkerer exists to delete your excess money, and he's a hilarious, slightly evil twist on in-game economies. It's rewarding those who know when to stop, and torturing the perfectionist who can't resist one more roll. The Brain of Cthulhu is the Crimson counterpart to the Eater of Worlds, but it splits the community when it comes to difficulty. Veterans often call it one of the easiest pre-hard mode bosses, especially once you know the trick. Kill the creepers, then finish off the brain itself. With piercing weapons and basic dodging, the fight becomes routine, and you don't need a fancy arena. Still, not everyone agrees. Newer players might find the second phase's teleporting and invisibility a real headache, and some prefer the Eater's segmented fight. Over the years, Relogic has updated the brain for expert and master modes, adding health debuffs and extra mirror images to keep things fresh. On the hardest seeds, the number of creepers double, and they charge much faster, making things genuinely tough. But on Classic, the brain is usually seen as a straightforward stepping stone to hard mode, mostly valued for its loot. Lore-wise, it's supposed to be Cthulhu's actual brain, but gameplay-wise, it's mostly there to drop crafting materials. In the end, Brain of Cthulhu is a boss designed more for mechanical progression than as a lasting challenge, unless you're playing on the game's most punishing settings. When Terraria introduced the Crimson as a twisted alternative to the classic corruption biome, it kicked off the most passionate and hilarious rivalry in the game's history. The corruption brings its iconic worm monsters and a boss that tunnels everywhere, while the Crimson goes full body horror with fleshy enemies and the infamous Brain of Cthulhu. Technically, both are designed to be balanced, but the community definitely picks sides, hard. Corruption fans love the Eater of Worlds fight, the moody music, the aesthetic, and especially the worm scarf, which is the best defensive accessory in expert mode. Crimson diehards point to the insane loot. Hello, vampire knives. The gross is good vibe, tougher enemies. And they'll tell you Crimson is harder, so it's better. Both sides have great arguments, but by now, it's pure tribalism. Some folks make new worlds just to get both sets of loot, but plenty of players stick to their biome of choice as a point of pride. The wild thing is, Relogic built these biomes to be mechanically equal, so you can't settle the debate just by crunching numbers. This FOMO and exclusivity turned biome preference into an identity, and even Terraria's own little sports rivalry. And honestly, that's half the fun. Terraria's final update saga is legendary at this point. It started with update 1.1, when Redigit quit, and everyone assumed that was it. But then he came back and dropped 1.2, calling that the real final update. Then 1.3 got the same treatment. Then 1.4, titled Journey's End, was promoted as the absolute last big content patch, except it wasn't. After that, Labor of Love was announced as the actual finale. But here we are, still hyped for 1.4.5, which, let's be honest, probably isn't the end either. The whole thing has become a running joke in the community. Anytime Relogic promises one last update, everyone laughs and starts placing bets on what's next. Each final release spawns just one more patch for bug fixes or new goodies, which snowballs into even more features and, you guessed it, another final update announcement. It's like an indie dev version of Skyrim on your smart fridge. It just never stops. But honestly, no one's mad about it. Terraria keeps selling like crazy, and Redigit is clearly too attached to fully move on. The final update is really just code for until inspiration strikes again, and the fans wouldn't have it any other way. When Journey's End dropped in May 2020, Relogic snuck in a hidden mechanic called Bad Torch Luck that punished players for using regular torches in biomes instead of biome-specific ones. Regular torches in the snow biome gave you minus 0.3 luck penalty, effectively tanking your drop rates. The community absolutely lost it. Players who'd spent years lighting up caves with regular torches suddenly learned they'd been penalized the entire time, and the game never told them. Veterans were furious, new players were confused, and the forums exploded. 3 days later, Relogic released hotfix 1.4.0.3 that removed bad torch luck entirely. They kept the good torch luck bonuses, but eliminated the penalties. The fix was actually clever from a programming perspective. They didn't delete the negative luck code, they just forced it to reset to 0 if it ever went below that threshold. This whole debacle directly led to the Torch God event being created as a peace offering to the community. Remember the Torch God event that was added after the Torch Luck controversy? In the game's source code, it's literally called Happy Fun Torch Time. That's right. Relogic's response to one of their most controversial mechanics was an event with the most sarcastic internal name possible. The Torch God was created after streamer Pedguin joked on livestream about Redigit punishing players for placing wrong torches, and Redigit actually responded in chat, saying he liked the idea. The event where 101 torches underground attack you with fireballs exists because of a Twitch chat joke. Even better, there's an actual Torch God NPC with ID 664 hidden in the game code that can't normally spawn. If you use mods to summon it, killing it only drops lesser healing potions and hearts, the most anticlimactic boss loot possible. The entire event is Relogic's way of saying, fine, you want torch mechanics? Here's torches trying to kill you. In 2019, Redigit casually dropped on Discord that the Moon Lord is the guide's father, just straight up said it. The community went nuts trying to figure out if he was serious or trolling. According to the wiki, this statement is most likely a joke and not considered official lore, but Redigit never clarified. Think about that. You've been sacrificing the guide to Wall of Flesh to start hard mode, and his dad is the literal final boss of the game coming to avenge him. The guide respawns, sure, but imagine being the guide watching players repeatedly murder you, knowing your cosmic horror father is sealed on the moon waiting to destroy everyone. This adds a whole dark layer to the guide's seemingly helpful demeanor. Is he genuinely trying to help, or is he just biding his time? The fact that Redigit won't confirm or deny whether this is canon makes it even better. The uncertainty is the joke. The princess won't spawn until you have literally every other town NPC present. That's 23 NPCs you need before she shows up. The catch? One of those NPCs is the cyborg, who only appears after you defeat Plantera. So the princess is technically a post-Plantera NPC despite not requiring any combat herself. Players who think they've met all the requirements often realize they're missing the stylist, hidden in spider caves, the golfer, or the tax collector, a rare tortured soul transformation. The game doesn't tell you which NPC you're missing, so people spend hours building houses, wondering why she won't spawn. Some players have completed the entire game, killed Moon Lord multiple times, and still don't have the princess because they forgot one random NPC. She's the ultimate test of whether you've actually explored everything Terraria has to offer. Think of her as a 100% completion trophy that can sell you a crown. The traveling merchant has exactly a 22.12% chance to spawn each in-game day between 4:30 a.m. and 12 p.m. Not 20%, not 25%, but specifically 22.12%. This oddly specific percentage comes from the game checking every tick, 1/60th of a second, to see if he should spawn. He has a 1 in 108,000 chance per tick, and when you calculate the probability across all ticks during his spawn window, you get 22.12%. Mathematically, you should see him roughly once every 4 to 5 days on average. People who claim he never visits are suffering from confirmation bias. You remember the times you needed him, and he didn't show up, not the dozens of times he arrived when you didn't care. The game tries to spawn him every single morning. You're just unlucky. Some players manipulate this by save scumming, log out before 4:30 a.m., disable autosave, then repeatedly relog until he spawns. This rerolls the RNG each load, letting you force his appearance. Relogic knows about this exploit, but hasn't patched it because it doesn't really break anything. The Clothier has a dialogue line that reads, "I keep having vague memories of tying up a woman and throwing her in a dungeon." This is a direct reference to the bound mechanic you find imprisoned in the dungeon. The implication is horrifying. While possessed by Skeletron's curse, the old man, who becomes the Clothier, kidnapped the mechanic and imprisoned her. When you free him from the curse, his memories of this act are fragmented and unclear, but he definitely remembers committing violence against a woman. The Clothier also has confused hatred toward the mechanic in his other dialogue, not fully understanding why. This single line of dialogue adds stark implications to Terraria's lore that most players miss. The mechanic doesn't reference this incident in her own dialogue, suggesting she either doesn't know who imprisoned her or has chosen not to confront him about it. The whole situation is unexpectedly grim for a game that's otherwise pretty lighthearted. You rescued her from someone who's now living peacefully in your town and selling you vanity outfits. As the old man, cursed by Skeletron, the NPC has glowing red eyes. After you defeat Skeletron and break the curse, he becomes the Clothier, with blue eyes. His entire appearance changes. His tattered robes become clean clothes. He gets a red hat and scarf, and those demonic red eyes turn calm blue. This is one of Terraria's few examples of an NPC visually transforming as the story progresses. The eye color specifically signals that the curse's influence is completely gone. It's a small detail that most players don't notice because you're not really looking at NPC sprites that closely. but if you compare the old man and clothier side by side, the difference is striking. The red eyes indicate possession by an ancient evil. The blue eyes represent his freed humanity. It's a clever visual storytelling technique that works even without explicit dialogue about the transformation. The clothier's new outfit is also noticeably higher quality than his cursed rags, suggesting he either had nice clothes stored somewhere or immediately went shopping after being freed. Priorities. According to official Terraria lore, Skeletron is part of Cthulhu's actual skeleton that the Dryads ripped out during their ancient battle. The entire dungeon exists because a curse was placed on it during that confrontation, turning all inhabitants into undead. The bestiary entry for Skeletron says it's the disembodied bones of a former tyrant, with hatred so strong it created a curse. That former tyrant is Cthulhu. This means every major boss in Terraria is connected to Cthulhu somehow. Eye of Cthulhu, his eyes. Brain of Cthulhu, his brain. Skeletron, his skeleton. And Moonlord, Cthulhu himself after being banished to the moon. The mechanical bosses are mechanical recreations of these body parts. When you fight Skeletron, you're battling ancient remains animated by pure malice. The curse preventing dungeon entry before defeating him isn't just game progression mechanics, it's literal magic preventing you from accessing cursed territory. This lore makes Skeletron way more significant than just the dungeon boss. He's a fragment of a dead god still trying to kill you. Before the 1.4.0.1 release, the Zenith had several placeholder names during development, including Final Fractal and Summit. The Final Fractal name actually made it far enough into development that a precursor weapon called the First Fractal exists in the game code as an unobtainable item. It resembles an upgraded Terra blade and was presumably an earlier design concept. The Zenith went through multiple iterations before Redigit settled on the current version. The name Zenith was chosen because it means the highest point, or peak, which fits perfectly for the game's ultimate weapon. Final Fractal would have implied something breaking apart or fragmenting, which doesn't really match the weapon's unifying theme of combining all swords. Summit also works thematically, but lacks the cosmic implications of Zenith. The fact that the First Fractal exists in the code suggests Redigit was originally planning a different progression system for the final sword, but scrapped it during development. That unobtainable weapon is now just a fossil in the game's code, representing a path not taken. The traveling merchant's inventory always includes exactly one painting, and it's always in his last inventory slot. This is hard-coded. No matter what other items he's selling, there will be one painting at the end. The specific painting varies, but the one painting in the last slot rule never changes. This design choice ensures paintings are regularly available for players who want to decorate, while also guaranteeing that at least one item slot is predictable. Everything else about his inventory is random, but that painting slot is consistent. Players who farm Traveling Merchant for specific items can immediately skip checking if they're not interested in that day's painting, saving time. The consistent placement also makes it easier to quickly scan his inventory. Painting at the end, useful stuff above it. This is good UI UX design, hidden in what seems like a random merchant. Redigit could have made the painting position random too, but chose consistency. It's one of those small quality of life decisions that players don't consciously notice, but appreciate subconsciously. In the Celebration MK10 seed, activated with 05162011, or Celebration MK10, the princess spawns immediately on the beach at world start alongside the guide, Steampunker, Party Hat, and an Angora town bunny. You haven't defeated any bosses, you have no house built, and yet there she is, selling you items that normally require post-Plantera progression to access. This breaks the normal unlock conditions entirely. The game just spawns her because it's a special anniversary seed. What's weird is she sells items that reference late-game content you haven't reached yet, like if she's from a timeline where you already beat the game. The celebration seeds are basically, what if you started with in-game stuff experiments. Players can buy crown or princess-specific vanity items immediately, which normally wouldn't be accessible until you've essentially beaten the entire game. It creates this bizarre alternate timeline where the princess exists at the start of your journey instead of the end. Lore-wise, it implies the princess could have been helping you all along, but chose not to appear until you proved yourself. Or the celebration seed is just non-canon fun. The Zenith has a hidden mechanic where it ignores enemy invincibility frames, allowing damage to stack impossibly fast. Normally, when you hit an enemy, they get brief invincibility, preventing additional hits for a few frames. The Zenith bypasses this, so all 3 sword projectiles it fires can hit the same enemy simultaneously, and each sword sprite can register multiple hits depending on size and positioning. This is why the Zenith can reach 70,000 DPS on a single target, and over 7 million DPS against multiple targets. Against the Destroyer, which is made of multiple segments, the Zenith absolutely deletes health bars. The weapon doesn't explain this mechanic anywhere. Players discovered it by testing and noticing damage numbers appeared faster than should be possible. Relogic intentionally coded the Zenith to break normal game rules. It's the ultimate weapon, so it plays by ultimate rules. Combined with the homing behavior and ability to attack through blocks, the Zenith is deliberately overpowered as a reward for crafting it. It's supposed to make you feel like a god. Mission accomplished. When the clothier dies, usually by lava, traps, or clothier voodoo doll, he has a chance to drop the red hat, a vanity item that you literally cannot obtain any other way. No crafting recipe, no chest loot, no other NPC sells it. Only the clothier's death drops it. This creates a dark incentive structure where you're encouraged to murder your town's NPC for cosmetics. The clothier even has dialogue acknowledging this. That red hat of yours looks familiar when you wear it around him, implying he recognizes it as his own hat that you stole from his corpse. The red hat was such a coveted item that players built elaborate NPC death traps using lava, dart traps, and boulders specifically to farm clothier deaths. Relogic knows players do this and has never patched it because it's emergent gameplay. The hat itself is just red-colored headgear with no special stats, but the exclusivity makes it desirable. Some players refuse to kill NPCs on principle and never get the red hat. Others have industrial NPC slaughterhouses. Terraria doesn't judge you either way, which is somehow more disturbing. The Meow Mirror, one of the Moon Lord's signature drops, is a direct reference to the Nyan cat meme. When swung, it fires rainbow cat heads that leave a trail of rainbow and make meowing sounds. The weapon's name is a portmanteau of meow and mirror, a type of weapon. What's wild is that Relogic actually contacted the creator of Nyan Cat, Christopher Torres, to get permission before adding this weapon. The projectiles even bounce similarly to how Nyan Cat bounces in the original animation. The Meow Mirror deals 200 base damage, making it one of the strongest swords pre-Zenith. So this isn't just a joke weapon, it's a legitimate in-game choice. Players who never encountered the Nyan Cat meme might not even realize they're wielding a 2011 internet reference. The weapon even has a special sound effect file specifically recorded to sound like nya when it hits enemies. The Dungeon Guardian moves at 41 miles per hour, making it significantly faster than any mount or movement option available to players. For comparison, the fastest mount, UFO, caps at 41 miles per hour, meaning the Dungeon Guardian can easily keep pace. This enemy exists solely to punish players who enter the dungeon before beating Skeletron, and it has 9,999 defense, meaning you deal 1 damage per hit regardless of your weapon. Killing it is technically possible, but requires over 3 hours of continuous kiting while dealing 1 damage at a time to burn through its massive health pool. Players who successfully kill it are rewarded with the Bone Key, which summons a baby Skeletron headpad. It's purely cosmetic, but it's the ultimate flex. The Dungeon Guardian is literally Skeletron's head sprite, moving at impossible speeds, and it despawns the moment you leave the dungeon entrance area, making the fight even more restrictive. The Arms Dealer and Nurse have a hidden romantic dialogue that most players never notice. This subplot is never explicitly stated. You only discover it by reading NPC dialogue carefully. What makes it funnier is that the arms dealer is a sleazy gun dealer who definitely shouldn't be hitting on the medical professional trying to do her job. The nurse's responses range from flustered to annoyed, implying she's not interested, but he keeps trying. Relogic never resolved this storyline, leaving it as ambient character development that adds personality to otherwise functional shopkeeper NPCs. The painter NPC is loaded with references to Bob Ross, the legendary PBS painting instructor. His most obvious line is, "We don't make mistakes, we just have happy accidents," a direct Bob Ross quote. But there are deeper references as he talks about happy little trees and mentions painting friendly clouds. The painter even comments on painting techniques that mirror Bob Ross's wet-on-wet style. What's brilliant is that the painter sells paintings of Terraria biomes, bosses, and events, turning your adventure into art, just like Bob Ross turned landscapes into paintings. The painter's calm, supportive dialogue contrasts with the chaos of Terraria's combat, creating a peaceful NPC who just wants to make art. Some of his paintings are references to famous artworks. The Creation of the Guide is an obvious nod to Michelangelo's The Creation of Adam, while others reference specific Terraria community memes and moments. Are you chill like Bob Ross? Make sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. But did you know Minecraft is just as interesting as Terraria? Check out 2 hours of Minecraft facts to fall asleep to. See you there.